capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Mr. Fulmer, if you would lead us in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
And let me start again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Fulmer. There was no action taken in closed session. We have 3 revisions to the agenda this evening. Enclosure number 8, enclosure number 6, and enclosure number 9. This is the time for general public comment on any school-related.
Point of order. Mr. President,
Yes.
we're talking about the agenda, correct?
I'm
I would
sorry.
like to add something to the agenda. I'd like to put something in there to talk about the graduations.
I don't think you can do that.
I believe
It's not been published for the required time.
I believe that I can ask for it to be added to the agenda.
Dr.
Mr.
Rattle?
Crabtree and Dr. Vasquez, that is part of the COVID-19 report. So we'll be covering that then.
Okay, so then may I please ask that when public comment is done, that the 20 minutes be allowed to discuss the graduation and 20 minutes be allowed for the COVID update? It seems like the graduation and plans for reopening are 2 separate issues. And there's a lot of discussion and a lot of people that want to speak, and they're saying they're not being heard. I'm wondering if we could take them as 2 separate things so that people have a chance to be heard when you do that. And can I ask that it be done sooner than 9 o'clock this evening? If we can move that COVID update sooner so that people that want to be able to speak and be heard don't have to wait till 9 o'clock tonight?
Well, the COVID update shouldn't be at 9 o'clock. It should be considerably earlier than that if we can move through the agenda as it's posted.
Okay, thank you.
All right. General public comment on any school-related topic may be heard at this time. Comments will be heard through our telephone call-in system. The call-in number is 559-931-8500. We will take calls in the order they are received. Pursuant to board policy, the board may limit individual comments to no more than 3 minutes and individual topics to 20 minutes. Please begin your comments by stating your first and last name. Under state law, matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. If you have specific questions that you would like answered, please call the VUSD call center between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. The call center number is 559-730-7300. The board asks that any public comment on an item listed on tonight's agenda be addressed at the time the item comes up for discussion by the board, which, as Dr. Rattleman pointed out, the COVID-19 is covering our back to school and the graduation ceremonies. Do we have any public comment?
At this moment, we do not have general public comment.
Okay, I think we'll wait a few minutes. There's probably some people that are trying to call in. Let's move on to the consent agenda, and after we finish that, we'll go back for that comment. Is there anyone who'd like to pull a consent agenda item? Trustee Gamoyen.
I'd like to pull enclosure 8, please.
Okay, do I have any others? Do I have a motion for the remainder?
So moved.
I have a motion by Dr. Vasquez, a second by Mr. Fulmer.
That was member, I'm sorry, that was member Naylor that did the first?
No, that was you.
No, it was Mrs. Naylor.
Oh, I apologize. I
That's
thought I
okay.
heard your voice.
I know, just clarifying.
Oh, thank you. Trustee Naylor made the motion to accept and Mr. Fulmer did the second. The student reps vote. Trustee Board President John Crabtree is in favor. Trustee Foster in favor. Trustee Guerrero in favor. Trustee Fulmer in favor. Trustee Gamoyen in favor. Dr. Ravelin, I'm sorry, Dr. Vasquez is in favor. All right, that is unanimous.
Forgot trustee Naylor.
Well, you're just up there in the corner. And I trust that you are in favor,
Yes.
Trustee Naylor. Since you
Yes.
made the motion, I apologize for that. All right, it is now unanimous. Trustee Gamoyen, number 8.
Yes, this is a consultant and I would just like more information. I want to know who they are, what is this nonprofit organization, what's their purpose, what parameters are we giving them? I'd like also the team to make sure that all of our kids are serviced, possibly look into other organizations. So I would like to table this at this time.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes, I had a lengthy discussion with a gentleman by the name of Chris Records from California Equality. This is actually an AmeriCorps volunteer. There's actually 12 AmeriCorps, 12. They've offered 12 to Fresno Unified and 12 to ourselves. I was really disappointed with the presentation in that it was incorrect, saying that it was 2 people for the high schools. It's actually 2 people at 6 different campuses, and that includes some of the middle schools and some of the high schools. And it's not just to serve LGBT people, even though their curriculum is sensitive to LGBT, and the services will be available to anybody that needs them. They not only do one-on-one mentoring, but they'll also train to do small groups. And we got nothing. We got that one page, and even the page that we got was incorrect. So thank you for the correction. Dr. Avelin.
Dr. Avelin.
Yes, just a point of clarification. The correction that you got, the final one, sorry, we're getting feedback. You should have noted that the grade span is 9 through 12. So middle school is not included. If you are interested, we can ask for a presentation on the scope of this before you make a decision.
Trustee Guerrero.
I second the motion to table.
Trustee Gamoyen, did you have another comment? Trustee Naylor, you have a comment?
No, I was just going to second it.
Trustee Vasquez.
I was just going to say, this is AmeriCorps. It's not costing us anything, and it's giving us trained personnel with a curriculum of 30 different whatever they call them, sessions. And I would really like to see, I would like more information, but I'm just trying to give you the information that I do have. But it would have been nice to get a little more on that.
Okay, I have a motion by Trustee Gamoyen to table the item, a second by Mr. Guerrero for further information. I'll call for the vote. Trustee Naylor
Yes.
is in favor. Trustee Crabtree is in favor. Trustee Guerrero is in favor. Trustee Fulmer is in favor. Trustee Gamoyen is in favor. Trustee Vasquez is in favor, and student representative is also in favor, so it is unanimous.
Did you get Mr. Foster's vote?
Did I? Where is he? Oh, there he is. And he's in up too. Man, keeping up with the screens is tough. I guess I should follow my list of down here. Then I got to look up and see you all. So, all right, so we'll move on. Focus on student learning. Update on COVID-19, enclosure number 21. Excuse me, before I do that, do we have any call-ins for public comment? As I said, we would go back to that.
We do not have any calls for general public comment.
No public comment. All right, moving on. Update on COVID-19, enclosure number 21. Dr. Raveling.
Okay, Chuck Boone is going to bring up the presentation before we begin. There we go. All right, tonight we're going to go through many different aspects of COVID-19 and the things that have occurred and what we are working on into the future. So just as a reminder, I want to remind us all that we are a very large district in the state of California with over 29,000 students, and we have over 2,000 adult school students. And we have over 3,000 staff members, not to mention all of our guest teachers and our classified substitutes and our volunteers and walk-on coaches. We're a very large organization. So as we plan and make our decisions, we have to keep that in mind, that we have a wide variety of students, all the way from preschool, all the way up to adult, and many, many types of staff who support our students in their endeavor to learn and achieve the best that they can. Our staff is dedicated, and once again, I want to give a shout out because during this very unusual time and unpredictable time, our staff has done an amazing job. We know that our teachers and our administrators and all of our staff members miss our students, miss collaborating together, miss working with the students and supporting them very, very much. This has been a heartbreaking and very difficult time for all of us. And that teacher-student bond that they build, thank goodness that we had 6 months to build it before we got hit with the pandemic. But our staff has really done an amazing job. Nutritional services, custodial, bus drivers, our teachers are phenomenal. So we're very grateful and thankful for their dedication and hard work during this time. I also want to remind us of our demographics a little bit. We go through this every year just so we have a visual of what our student population is like. And we also have about 15% of our students are English learners. We have done supplemental work to support them, 9% special education, who we have done supplemental work to support those students as well. And then about 2/3 of our students are considered socioeconomically disadvantaged. So we need to consider all of this when we plan and support our students, whether it's regular times with traditional schooling or whether it's during a pandemic. The COVID-19 impacts have been huge, not only in our school system, but our entire community. Our students, our families, again, our staff are feeling this. There's been health and safety impacts. People's lives have been disrupted, their personal routines, and social, emotional, financial, on and on. On the school side, instructional time is different. It is not the same, and students are not getting the same amount of time in instruction that they would have. But it's not just the academics. There's the social, emotional learning aspects. We have equity issues. Again, we have many of our students who need extra supports to continue to grow and be the best that they can. And it's impacting our budget as a state, but then also as a district. And it impacts the professional development that our staff is used to doing in learning communities amongst themselves and that we can provide. So it has hit us every which way, and there's no denying that. I think it's been very frustrating and difficult for all of us to grapple with just the many facets. We did, right from the get-go, create a web page with the updates. We continue to put out updates to the community, press releases, informational videos, and communicate as many ways as possible to let everybody know what's going on, whether it's a change in the meal delivery routines or curriculum, promotion, all of those things. We try to cover all of that and communicate in many, many different ways to our community. Beyond setting up the website and pushing out a lot of information, We have been utilizing social media. So we've been using our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook feeds to also put out information. And right from the get-go, the Monday right after we closed, we set up a call center, and a care line came later. So we have a call center. It is still open. Just today we were talking about how we might staff that through the summertime. A lot of our staff's off in the summer, but how we might be able to continue that, and the need for the care line to perhaps continue as well. The care line provides school psychologists and social workers, and anybody, whether it's a student, a staff member, or a family member, can call into the care line for support if they're feeling anxious, distraught, nervous about this whole situation and need someone to talk to, or perhaps some referrals to community agencies. So we've continued that work. We're not letting up on that. As a county, the county superintendent of schools, along with all the districts in the county, developed early on with the schools closing down some reopening criteria. And you've seen this before. I just want to review it. The reopening criteria, and this is when we thought about reopening traditional school, everybody. We had criteria set that the California State Shelter-in-Place Order has been lifted. It has not been lifted. There has been modifications, things like social gatherings. There's still limits on those. So we haven't met the criteria, but as we continue to talk as county schools and with the county health officer, we may reopen partially without all of these having been in place. But we're waiting and seeing and hoping that as time goes on through the summer, that this will change and that we can have a full return to school. So as far as the governor, there's still the stay home orders and there's still in place. When the governor orders Californians to obey the directives of the state health officer, that is law. So we have to do that. At the end of May 8th, the state moved into the first phase of stage 2. Some of you may have heard that many counties in the state are now able to move into the first part of stage 3. We're not one of those counties, but schools, we're hoping to get there, can open with modifications in the second phase of stage 2. Each county has to attest, they have to complete a form that meets certain criteria so we can move into that latter stage 2. And Tulare County is not there yet, but hopefully we'll get there. So if you look on the California Coronavirus Response webpage, you'll see that the resilience roadmap, again, we're right now in stage 2, which is the lower risk workplaces opening up. As of today, our governor announced that many counties will be moving into stage 3. In fact, many of those surrounding our county, it looks like we'll be doing that. So we want to look at where are we now a little bit more deeply. And moving on, this is the things that are allowed in early stage 2. Some of you have probably seen this before, but or know that certain businesses have opened up. Curbside retail was allowed and such. That is where my understanding is Tulare County is right now as we speak. As far as the public health officer, she was able to speak to us on Friday, and this is where we are. Still worried about large group gatherings and those types of things, and letting us know that the recommendation to keep groups small is very important in case they have to do contract tracing. Also that we have community spread in Tulare County. So it's not just certain little pockets, it is being, the COVID-19 is being spread around the community. So as we make our decisions, we're being cognizant of that as well. Looking at where we're headed into expanded stage 2, again, that is with the county completing a form that they submit to the California Department of Public Health, stating that we meet certain criteria. Some of this is started a little bit with the destination retail. You know, in some counties, there's dine-in restaurants, and then it says schools with modifications. That's important to note that we as school folks in the state are waiting. We were hoping today that we'd get some guidelines. The governor today indicated those would be a little bit later in the week and maybe this weekend. They want to make sure they do a good job with that to know what the modifications might be like. we're going ahead and planning, and then we'll adjust to the modifications as needed. Where we are headed, continuing, there's some things listed in, not permitted in stage 2, public, not public, but church services and stuff were not allowed. But yesterday, the governor said that religious services could be held statewide, and that would be up to 25% of a congregation, but not more than 100 people, with certain parameters in place. So my point in sharing some of this with you is that you can go on the California Department of Public Health website. It says not permitted in stage 2, but every day there's more information coming out and things keep changing. So we are watching with bated breath to know when we can start doing some things differently as well. Moving into phase 3, that's higher risk workplaces. Just today, the governor said that hair salons and barbershops, but not nail salons, could open for those counties who have met the variance attestation, and Tulare County again has not yet met those requirements. So we're not supposed to move in that direction. I don't know, what independent businesses will do and such, but for us as a public school entity, we will follow the directions of the governor, the California Department of Public Health, and our local health officer. That is our requirement, and we will do so. So that is a lot of background onto where we made decisions that we're moving into today. So the next phase I want to move into is the Graduation Promotion Committee and how the decisions were made on what we're doing for our 8th graders and our high school graduates. Again, keeping in mind our district size and the number of schools we have 7 high schools to plan for. Our largest graduating class at Redwood is at 466, ranging down to VTEC with 58 seniors graduating. We also have 10 schools with 8th graders promoting. So we have to remember it's not just our middle schools, but also our K-8 schools where we have 8th graders promoting. So we had to keep all of that in mind. We started in mid-March. There was a committee that was formed. The committee had staff members from various high schools and middle schools. Many of those on the committee had children in our school district, so they're also parents. Beyond that though, parents and students were consulted. There was phone calls made and asking their opinion and what they would suggest, what they'd like to see given the circumstances that we're dealing with. The committee also researched programs both locally, statewide, and nationally. And so they did a lot of research. We didn't make a decision till just recently. We were holding off in the hopes that we could hold traditional ceremonies, but when it got down to the wire, we had to make a decision which direction to go in order for our sites to plan ahead and go ahead and do the work to prepare for next week's ceremonies. Because we have so many schools and so many students, the planning and details that go into anything that we do is extensive. And so that we had to allow some time for that. The recommendation of the committee was to go ahead and to hold 2 events for all of our 7 high schools. So they wanted to make sure that we focused on high quality resources, and we had to make a decision, like, are we going to spend the money and time and our resources now and make 2 events very special, or are we going to, wait and hope in the future that we could do something different? As looking into the future and looking at the trend lines of our county and the cases and watching the CSUs and other colleges already deciding that they're going to be 100% online for the fall semester, that didn't bode well for us promising something in July or August. We didn't want to have continual cancellations, and our graduates would no longer be VUSD students. So while we do have people who are heartbroken, and we're heartbroken that we can't promise traditional ceremonies, we have students who are joining the military, who are going off to college in other states where they are starting fall semester. The UCs have indicated now they might be a hybrid, so students will need to report to school. And we have students who are just simply moving away, waiting, for their senior year to finish starting a new job or just moving elsewhere for a different experience or whatever their personal reasons are. So if we pushed ceremonies down the road, those students would not have any ceremonies. That's the background. We did not want to, I'll say what the committee said. They didn't want to kick the can down the road and promise something that we might not be able to deliver. We have no idea in August, in September, in December, what the pandemic will look like, if there'll be a resurgence, we don't know. So we don't want to promise something and then not have it at all. So again, the focus was create 2 very special events for our seniors and make them as wonderful and celebratory as possible. Along with that, just remembering that all of these plans, we are following the state and local guidelines for health. And we know that this is hard for people. Again, the committee spent a lot of time researching. We are doing almost identical to what Tulare High Schools, Hanford High Schools, Porterville High Schools are all doing, things very, very similar to ours. So the large districts in the area are following the same process as we are. So there's 2 ceremonies. We have a 3rd celebration you'll see on the screen there from KC24. We have the virtual ceremony, which is being professionally video edited. Our video teachers are working on that from our high schools. The virtual ceremony follows the traditional program in that there's the traditional speeches, the traditional awards, and that all happens. Then the students are going to have their photographs, and it's going to be overlaid with any scholarships, medals, those kinds of things. And that will be aired on YouTube channels the evening that our traditional ceremonies would have occurred. They will be available after graduation, and we have, as of today, finalized a deal. This has been in the works for a couple weeks, but we didn't want to announce it until today with KC24. They are going to be airing for all 7 of our high schools the videos for commencement for our high schools on the Saturday and Sunday following graduations. So if families want to get together and have a family barbecue or a luncheon sort of kind of thing to celebrate their high school graduate, those will be playing on TV. They'll also be on KC24's landing page, and so that anybody around the world can see them. So if there's relatives that live from afar, they'll be able to view those as well. So that's the virtual ceremony, which will be shown again in multiple venues. That's one celebration. The second celebration for our high school seniors is the in-person ceremony. It is a drive-up ceremony in that students can decorate their cars. They will receive their diploma, their honor cords, their medals in person. They come in their caps and gowns if they choose to. We'll have staging areas at the large comprehensive high schools. There'll be 4 staging areas at a time. So 4 seniors will be graduating, going through ceremonies at once. They will follow the directions that the site has laid out. Those are a little bit different for each site because of the physical layout of the plant. And the staging areas will be decorated. So the student will walk across the area that is laid out for them. And we will have a professional photographer there with a nice decorated backdrop so that professional photographs can be taken. Families can take videos or photographs from the vehicle. And again, this is in line with what the other large districts are doing as well. And that's what's happening. It will be a little bit different at each of the high schools. For example, at Redwood High School, they will be entering at the end of campus close to Sierra Vista. And that's where they'll be greeted initially, and then they'll be shepherded, there'll be signs and people to help them. Please remember that when all of this is occurring, we have asked our staffs to maintain social distance, not to gather in large groups, following the recommendations again of our county health officer. We also know that many teachers want to cheer on their students because they miss them dearly. And so we cannot require that teachers show up or even request, but do know, we've heard that many want to show up. And if they do so, then we're going to ask them to stand after the professional photographs in the staging area. And again, ask them to be very careful so that they're using safe procedures to keep themselves and others safe and to use social distancing. So that is sort of the plans right now. Those are being refined this week because commencements start next week. And we have posted on our website an updated schedule. Things keep getting changed a little bit. Looking at the 8th grade promotion ceremonies, those are traditionally much more low key than our high school. And so the committee decided to follow suit. They will have a virtual ceremony that also follows the traditional program. The student will have photographs with their medals. That'll be available at 1 o'clock after their graduation time. They have a drive-through ceremony. They are not getting out of the vehicles, but the principal will be presenting to them their promotion certificate, medals, and awards. So that is the sort of the overview, not every detail, but the overview of the high school graduations and the 8th grade promotion ceremonies. And I want to stop there for the board to ask any questions or make any comments that they might before we move on to planning for 2021.
Is there any, Mr. Fulmer? Trustee Fulmer, you have to turn on your mic.
Okay. One of the things we have to keep in mind is that with the best of intentions, if one student gets sick, we will be sued for our back teeth. We just cannot, we have to follow state guidelines. If we start getting creative, we're going to be in court in a heartbeat. That's all.
Dr. Vasquez.
So I have a couple things. The committee, there was only one graduation committee. There wasn't a committee at each campus. There were no principals. There were no students. There were, the only parents that were involved were VUSD staff or VUSD admin, or who
Not at all,
exactly was
ma'am.
on this committee?
I will repeat that information. There was a committee. It was composed of high school and middle school staff. There were administrators on it as well. There were parents who were consulted and contacted outside of those who are staff members who are
Okay,
parents.
I heard you the first time you said they were consulted. So on the committee, there were no students and there were no parents. Is that correct? They were consulted. They were not part of the committee. In other words, they made a couple calls and they asked a couple questions. They reached out to a couple of parents. They asked a couple of students, but they were not active participants in the committee. Is that correct?
I cannot elaborate on the details as I was not on the committee, but my understanding is the committee started meeting in mid-March and coming up with different ideas. And then as time went on, they reached out to parents and students. How that looked, I can't answer that.
Okay, so because I was under the impression when I asked her that we were doing committees and that we were, that there were going to be principals, that there were going to be students, and that they were going to be at each campus. But I know you wanted to keep it centralized and everything the same, which I also understand didn't happen at some of the other stuff that campuses kind of went off. So I just want to know where, because my understanding of the way the committee was going to work, and then apparently now there were no students, there were no other parents on there, they just consulted. Then if it was the fact that the committee wasn't made like that, or if the committee was made like that and it just wasn't communicated, that's what happened. So now I'm getting a clearer picture. The other question that I have is, are staff invited to come, or are they told not to come, or are they told they can come as long as they keep separate distance? And I agree with Mr. Fulmer, with Member Fulmer, that our first priority has to be a safety. I mean, that's why we're doing all this. But if people are coming in a car together and only the student is getting out, or the student is not even allowed to get out, I don't understand why the people in the car can't get out with them to be able to take a picture or to take a video, and the only way that they can get a picture is through the professional one. And that's the news that's out there. So if that is different, then please correct me. If people, you said they could take pictures or video from their car, that didn't seem to be, that wasn't clear. If you did say people cannot get out of their cars, but yet you're saying now that they can be close enough to take video and pictures, I would like clarification, because I think there's just been this lack of of clarity. And I read over what you said several times, but it's still hard to visualize. So if you could please elaborate, if the people that are in the car, that they're all breathing the same air, cannot get out to take pictures, is there that many people around them that makes it more than 10? Because when I asked last time, you said we can't have more than 10 people. Even though I think as of today, you said that changed. So I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do so people can get out of their cars, or at least to make it clear that they'll be close enough to take a picture? Or, you know, again, keeping safe. I want us to keep safe. I want us to follow the rules. I'm all for that. But I think there's been a lack of clarity, and that's why people have, you know, so many questions and are, well, they're going to be disappointed anyway, because this is hard. Graduation's a big deal. But
So
but
I'm
I
going to try to
clarity
remember
that
all,
might help.
I'm going to try to remember all the things you covered. This was not a central office directed committee. I believe there was one person from the central office on the committee. It was made up of site people. So when it started in mid-March, they brainstormed ideas. And again, as they moved along, then they did outreach to students and parents to find out like which ideas they thought were good, which would not be acceptable, and get their ideas on how we could have something special for the graduates, because that's the whole point of this, is to do something special. We are not having groups over 10 because our county, again, has not moved into the second part of phase 2. So staff is not invited in particular. There will be some staff working because we have to have some staff greet the students and then direct the cars as they go through. And then there will be staff stationed by the different staging areas. Again, that there'll be 4 at the large comprehensive high schools, not as many at a smaller school because they don't have as many students. So the cars, once they drive up, the graduate gets out. This is not a drive-through, it is a drive-up in-person ceremony. The graduate gets out, they'll be in their cap and gown, and they will be told, here's where you walk across, and then a professional photographer will be there to take their picture. The vehicles will be close enough to take a picture and to video their graduate if they so choose to do so. We have such large schools, think about Redwood, 466, but 2 of our other high schools are over 400 as well. They have to get through all of these families, you know, in a day. So we cannot have families getting out of a car. Cutler-Rossi had just a little over 200 students, and it took them almost 2 full days. They did it in a different manner, I believe, where families could get out and take pictures. We don't have that availability. We have 7 high schools to get through. So that's why I wanted to go over those statistics with you in the beginning. There is an incredible amount of logistics that goes into planning things for our district. My information to you, and that I put out from the district office here, is more general, but every site has their very specific details that they're sending out to families, and they will be sending out further information this week so that they have more specific details as it gears to their sites. We are not inviting staff again, teachers, because we can't have large groups around. We do hear though that some teachers just want to show up. So if they do show up, they won't be part of the on-campus kind of situation again, because we're limiting the number of folks around. We need to be very careful with our safety measures. But if they do show up, then we will ask them to be in the sidewalk area after the photos. And we want to sort of enforce to them and emphasize to them that we care about them. We want them to be safe. So we hope that they will use precautions.
Thank you very much.
The student representative, Ms. Travis.
Hello. So I would like to preface this that I do understand all the logistics and all the time and consideration that our committee and our board has put into making these decisions. And I respect all the efforts that you guys have done, that I do feel like you guys really do care about us and about the decisions and about how much we care about our graduation. However, I do feel as a student representative, as someone who speaks for the students, that I implore that we can find some kind of compromise between what the students and what the parents want and what the school board wants to be safe. Because I know we are trying to be safe and we are trying to be efficient, but I also feel during a special time like this, efficiency isn't exactly at the top of people's concerns. I have talked to students and I've talked to parents that they are willing to kind of wait in a line that is socially distanced and is able to allow their students to walk across the stage and the families are able to witness. And so they're able to be there physically and they're able to take pictures and they're able to share that special moment with their student as well as with all the admin that are there. And so I leave this and ask you guys to please try to find maybe something else that can make this moment just a little bit more special, a little more personal between the families and the school that they've worked and they've attended to for 4 years and their education that they've put 12 years into. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Travis. Is there any other comments? All right, floor is yours. Oh, Mr. Fulmer.
I just, let's see, do I have my, okay, I just wanted to throw in, I have 2 grandkids graduating, and I had certainly looked forward to handing them their diplomas, but it's just not appropriate. I mean, it's the idea of risking their health just it's not even nearly worth it. So that's all.
Trustee Foster.
Can't hear him.
Yeah. Somebody needs to turn on his mic.
Mr. Boone's working on that.
Trustee Guerrero, go ahead.
Yeah, a few minutes ago, when we were in the break, I was able to see some of the ceremonies out in Clovis Unified School District, which is a district that's our size. Actually, it's a little bit bigger. And one of the key things that they did was they allowed the parents to get out of the car and to take that photograph or take that video. And then after they did that, they got back in the car or however. But anyway, the parents, they said basically this, that because they were able to get out of the car and take that picture of their graduate, then it put them closer to the ceremony than they would otherwise have been. In other words, they were not on the stage or up on the bleachers of the stadium. They actually were closer to where the student was getting his diploma, their diploma. And so it was more special for them. That was coming from the parents. And they just basically said, being able to come out, take the picture, take the video, and to do that, to take those few minutes, that meant a lot to them. I get everything else about the cards, the drive up and the virtual ceremony. I understand all that. But what they wanted was something special. And they said that really made it for them, was to be able to be there, not just sitting in the car, waiting way back over there while their kid gets the diploma, while their graduate gets the diploma. They basically said, we're able to get up, take a picture, take a video, and we felt that made it special for them because they were closer to that student graduate getting that diploma.
Trustee Foster.
What's the timeline between the guidelines that you're going to give students for each car? 5 minutes or 2 minutes?
No, it's much shorter than 5 minutes. I would say closer to 2. We have our staffs at the various high schools have worked extensively with Visalia Police Department and the Public Works Department of the City of Visalia to map it all out and time it. They're helping control traffic flow and such. And we would, if we do anything different, we'll need to consult with them as well.
If they choose one ceremony, are they locked into that ceremony and they can't choose the other one, or can?
No, the virtual ceremony is happening as well as the in-person. So there will be 2 ceremonies.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other board member comments? Dr. Evelyn, would you like to finish your presentation, or can we take some public comments?
I think the rest won't take so long because it's a very quick overview of the planning we're doing for next year.
Okay.
So maybe we should wrap it up and then take
Go ahead.
comment.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. This is small font, so I apologize for that. It is in your board packet. We have a large committee that developed the planning principles for next year. Not knowing what the world is going to bring us, we have some guiding principles. Just not going to read those to you, but just so you know, our number one principle is to protect the health, safety, and privacy of our students, staff, and family. We have to think about our students, but our staff and community as well. So you can go through those. We want to make sure that we are mindful, that we're supporting our families, and that we provide the training that our teachers need and our parents need before we assign things to them. So there's a lot of scenarios that we're looking at. Again, we hope that we'll have a full return to traditional school setting. I think everybody hopes that. But we're looking at everything from a full distance learning instructional model. We don't know what the future is going to bring. And again, as we've mentioned before, we have to be able to toggle, as the governor says. So if there's a second outbreak, then we need to be able to go full distance learning if needed. We're looking at hybrid models where some kids come 2 days a week, others maybe 3, some come 2 and 2, and the middle one's a high sanitation day where there's a lot of deep cleaning and professional development and teachers doing outreach to students. Again, every different model. There's many out there. So we have a team that is looking at scheduling, and that team has staff members, teachers, classified, we'll have parents on it as well, and secondary students. So I want to show you the planning teams, and again, this is small and it's in your board packet, but we have many different planning teams. These are not district office teams, although you will see that many district office folks are the chair. All of these teams are working by themselves, and then the chair's job is to report back to sort of a central committee that can track everything. So whether it's public health, instruction, student engagement, and so forth, we're looking at every aspect. Returning to school in any type of fashion is a large endeavor for us. And especially if we're not traditional, if we're in some type of hybrid, which is what we're told we need to be thinking about right now as we enter into the second part of phase 2, that we could easily in August be in a hybrid model. That has many, many challenges because it's different than what we're doing right now. And it's very different than what we've done in the past. Looking at the next slide, I want you to know that under the instructional team, there's many sort of different groups. So we're still looking at internet access for all. We have the agreement to put up the towers that you all approved in April. We are now learning that some of the equipment may be delayed. So now we're looking at purchasing additional hotspots through T-Mobile to make sure that we can have internet access for all in the fall. Whether we're hybrid or we're full distance learning or we're traditional, all of our students need that access. For Chromebooks, we have a team that's working on that. They have cataloged now about 27,000 Chromebooks, which is kind of overwhelming to think about, but they hope to be done by the end of May. And again, we're ordering additional Chromebooks. We have another team that's looking at a learning management system. That would be the overall shell that teachers could upload assignments into, discussions could take place, those kinds of things. It needs to coordinate with our student information system as possible. So there's a team looking on that. We have another team looking at communication and video instruction, how that might look. They're trying out some different types of systems, costing out because it appears that if you want privacy for your students and you want the teachers to have control on the settings, there's a cost associated with that. It's not the free versions. We have another team looking at English language arts software, another looking at math software, and then another team that is looking at other subject softwares and supports. So all of those teams have a lead, and we've asked the leads to make sure they have a variety of types of people on it from different schools, that they don't get people that just agree, that they get people who have different perspectives, because we want to make the best choices possible. So that's where we're at. There'll be more on that. What I think we'll do is that every time we have a board meeting from here on out, we'll have a COVID-19 update so that we can give you more detail as these teams develop in their work. They've only been together for some just a week, some 2 weeks. And so they are doing a lot of talking to other districts, talking to vendors, doing research, trying things out, test piloting things, and learning about all of these areas very, very quickly. As they make some recommendations and decisions as teams, then we'll be bringing those forth to you for purchases. So we'll definitely have a lot of conversation about that as we go through this time. And with that, if there's any questions, be happy to take those if there's further questions.
Mr. Moon, do we have public comment?
We do. One moment, please.
To Dr. Raveline. I know you guys are doing the best that you can in this situation, and I just couldn't let this opportunity go by without speaking up. And I'm doing this on behalf of my son. He is a senior at Golden West High School, and he has many friends that are sharing his disappointment, overwhelming disappointment at all that has been lost this year. I will make my comments brief about the graduation. And my biggest concern is the lack of parent input about interviews regarding the graduation. I'm grateful for Dr. Raveline for response.
Can't understand. I'm sorry. I can't hear.
Is there some way to clean up that call? I'm sorry. There's a lot of echo. There's a lot of echo in the call. Is there some way we can fix that?
Yeah, I certainly can't understand it.
Maybe if we all mute ourselves.
Can you not hear me?
Maybe get
Do
closer
you
to the
have your
phone.
computer on? Can you mute your computer?
My computer is not on. I'm on my phone.
Your computer is not on. Caller, go ahead.
Okay, so I can hear.
No,
Mr. Crabtree, can you hear?
there's too much echo. There's no way that's going to work. We've got to figure out how to clean that up. Maybe the caller could call back.
Okay, go ahead. Can you start again, please?
Sure, I will. So I guess my
It's worse now than it was.
Can you not hear me?
It's not that. It's we're getting some echo somewhere.
Is it, are we putting that feed through a microphone?
We are. Go ahead, caller. I'm sorry.
Okay. Our concern as parents is that our students aren't also being heard. The parents, of course, feel like we aren't being heard, but now the students are starting to speak up, as can be seen by the protest that they had out at the district today, which was wonderful to see their amendment, the First Amendment rights, and put into practice. That was really fun. But these kids clearly want a more traditional commencement, like Exeter did last weekend. Reedley Clovis. These are bigger school districts, especially Clovis, and they were able to do it. So there's no reason why we can't, not really. If we can stand in line at Costco with masks on, there's no reason that our graduates can't stand in line to walk across the stage. There really is no reason. And fear that we'll get sick doesn't answer the question, because we would be socially distanced. They've showed that at the protest today. Anyways, those were my concerns, is that the parents weren't given the survey that was promised or that was discussed at the last board meeting. Or the student representative had brought that up and it was made a suggestion and everyone seemed really happy with that. However, parents never received the survey, neither did students. And I think at this point in the game, it's the students that need to be considered, not the parents anymore. And those are my comments for this evening. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Do we have
President Kraft,
another-
a minute. I'm going to check if there's another call, so I'm going to mute it and I'll be right
Okay.
back. Go ahead, caller.
Okay, let me state the name. Oh, McKenna Martin.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is McKenna Martin. I'm a senior at Redwood High School. I am calling to let you know the tremendous toll this virus has taken on our lives. Not only did we lose the end of our senior year, spending our last days in class with friends, grad night, prom, senior sunset, yearbook signing night, and other fun activities hosted by our schools, but we also lost something important to us that we worked our entire school career for: graduation. COVID-19 has changed the way we learn, interact with each other, and has taken an emotional toll on our lives. The one event we were most looking forward to was graduation. When we heard the districts had planned for our graduation, we were extremely disappointed. We texted and called each other about how sad this made us feel. We worked so hard for the moment that we get to walk up to our administrators and teachers and have them call our name out over the loudspeaker for all our family and friends to hear that we did it. We wanted to be part of the decision-making process, but we really weren't. Students of USD held a protest today because we were not a part of the decision-making process. I know of several kids in my senior class who aren't even going to show up to this drive-through graduation because it is really just picking up our diplomas, cords, and medals, and nothing else. Yes, there is a picture-taking opportunity, but our names aren't going to be called out. My whole family can't be a part of it, and the 3 family members that can fit in our car besides me can't even get out to take their own photo. We are sad and insulted that our schools couldn't come up with something more memorable and personal for us. Students' social and emotional health is suffering, and this is just making it worse. You have the authority to make it different for us and help us to have something that would allow us the closure for our school career that we worked hard for. I've been seeing all these other schools hold more memorable graduations while we are in this pandemic, but the best Visalia Unified could come up with for us is nothing unlike what we did to turn in our textbooks. I have worked hard. I am graduating 12th in my class of 466 students. It makes me sad to know that other high schools in our valley are doing much more for their seniors than our district is for us. We deserve something better. I really hope that you are taking this letter or this call into consideration and change how we are graduating. Thank you.
And thank you. And congratulations on your accomplishment, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, caller. Caller, go ahead, begin by stating your name.
Okay. Hey, my name is Chris Crawford. I've grown up in Visalia since I've been 5 years old. I've got 3 kids in the VUSD elementary schools. And I guess one of the things that I guess just wanted to mention for next year is that, a lot of us that are parents have, we're both working full time, and it's just not practical to expect that a lot of this online stuff can be done with 3 different kids in 3 different grades with both people working full time. And I guess what I'm asking the board to do is that, throughout my, time here in the Central Valley, I guess what I've seen is that, we have the ability to really use our brains and common sense versus the rest of our state. So what I'm hoping for is that our board kind of takes into account, like, a lot of us that have to work full time, both parents, the single parents that are out there that have to work full time. And I just don't understand, like, what option there could be that's going to work out for all the people like us next year, except for just going back to, school kind of like in the regular format that it usually is, because a lot of this online stuff just doesn't work for elementary kids unless you've got somebody that can sit down with them the whole day and do this stuff with them. And I guess the other thing along with that too is, if you are going to do something like do, certain days of a week that kids are going to go to school and not go to school, I guess you just keep it consistent and think about what the daycares are doing, because it's like impossible for us to find a daycare that's going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday one week, and then Tuesday, Thursday like another week and stuff like that. So I guess what my hope is that kind of the board takes some of this stuff into consideration, maybe talks to some of the daycares about what they're able to do, and just comes up with something like kind of reasonable solution for next year for those of us that, that are having to work full time. I mean, because the other thing too is, I don't know if you guys know how much daycare costs, but I mean, just sending a kid to preschool at like once a month was like $600 or $700 a month. So I can't imagine what sending kids to daycare during the day is going to cost, every month. But that's just not a practical option for a lot of us. So I guess that's all I really wanted to say. Appreciate your taking the time to listen.
Thank you for your comments, and I think they're valid concerns, and I'm certain that our staff has been considering them as well. So hopefully we come up with the right plan for you. Do we have any other comments?
Caller, you can go ahead and hang up now.
Thank you.
We do. Oh, and let me take that call. I'll be right back.
I'm going to use the 20-minute limit, but I'm going to base it on just on the call time and not on the actual 20 minutes.
Caller, go ahead.
My name is Brittany Christensen, and I have 2 children in Visalia Unified Schools. I'm calling to express my concern that students and their families as stakeholders in this district whose voices are perhaps the most important are not being considered in the district's decision-making process. We want a voice in the decisions the district is making regarding our children's education and participation in the committees that have been mentioned. Since the schools closed in March, we have witnessed our children struggle immensely. They have been deprived of the social, emotional, and mental growth opportunities that only a classroom can provide, and been separated from their teachers and their peers for 2.5 months. The effects have been profound. I have watched my usually outgoing, happy kindergartner become moody and frustrated. I have been told by both of my children, occasionally through tears, how badly they miss school and want to go back. Learning at home can never be the same as being at school. I help run a Facebook group of 1,460 parents and guardians of VUSD students. We recently put out a poll to our members. Overwhelmingly, parents wish for a full return to traditional school in the fall. Of 460 votes so far, 84% have voted for a full return or to allow students who wish to attend school the chance to do so. The distance learning materials that the district has provided have been inadequate to meet our children's needs. Worksheets do not teach students. We feel disappointed, especially since other local districts have done significantly more to support their students and families. Additionally, while some parents may be able to act as their child's teacher, What about the students who do not have a parent or other support person to do this? Where is the equity in that? Both full and part-time distance learning pose an immense hardship on families in which both parents work, have infants or toddlers at home, or have older children who could supervise their younger siblings, but at the expense of their own study time. According to our governor, if any distance learning or hybrid model is to take place in the fall, districts are responsible to provide for the supervision of children during school hours so that parents can return to work. Even on its best days, distance learning does not work for all children. Sending some group of children to school and keeping others home is not equitable. Our school community, including parents, teachers, and staff, want to work with our district to do what is needed to safely open our schools and get our children in the classroom again. They need to be taught by their teachers and interact with their friends. If liability is a concern, why not allow parents the opportunity to sign a waiver to participate in on-campus learning? Why not allow those families who are comfortable sending their children to school to do so, and those who are not to opt out and learn at home? Why not give the families and students a choice in the matter? We appreciate that our children's safety is your concern, but so should be their overall well-being, something only going back to school full can achieve. This is what our families want. Distance learning and paper packets have proven to be inadequate. The question should not be whether or not we will return in the fall. We should determine now that we will be returning and instead ask how we can go about accomplishing this in a manner that's safe for our students and staff. Per the state superintendent, Visalia Unified has the choice to do this. Please allow us to be a part of this decision-making process with you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have other comments?
Thank you.
Caller, go ahead and hang on. We do have other comments. One moment, please. Visalia Unified. Caller, go ahead.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, begin by stating your name.
Okay, my name is Rebecca Abbott. I'm the parent of 4 VUSD students and 1 preschooler. I feel like our kids need to be in school. Parents need to return to work. Children need the emotional, social, and mental benefits that come from interacting with teachers and classmates. They can't stay away for a year and not have consequences. That is why I feel like we need a full return to a traditional school setting in the fall with health precautions. Now, if we can't do a full return because of government regulations, a hybrid model where they attend some days or some hours on and off would be preferable to nothing. Their entire education wouldn't just be in front of a computer screen or a paper. If we have to do some form of online learning again, I plead with you to allow our talented teachers the opportunity to directly teach our children. Find a software platform like Zoom or something that is safe and okay to allow them to interact with their teachers besides the phone and email. It is just not enough to help them learn. It's not working. They need to be taught by a teacher. They need to be able to ask questions and get immediate answers with diagrams, modeling, and teaching. Please find a way to accomplish this. Give teachers adequate training. Other districts have been doing this the entire shutdown. We can do it. Lastly, I feel the option where some student groups are allowed at school and others are only allowed distance learning is not equitable nor fair. All students, regardless of circumstances, deserve to be in the classroom with their teacher if they choose to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, caller. You can go ahead and hang up now. I have another call coming in.
Okay.
Visalia Unified. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Danielle Griffiths. My husband and I have 3 children in the Visalia Unified School District, 1 in high school, 1 in middle school, and 1 in elementary school. Additionally, I'm a former USD teacher. I know several of the faces on the screen, so wanted to thank you guys for taking our calls. At the same time, You know, the kids are not all right, that's for sure. I have 3 usually very peppy kids, really struggled with the online learning. I was a teacher for 13 years. I know what goes into taking care of our kids. And I'm getting extremely nervous with some of the, I don't know if they're rumors or what, but about transitioning to an online learning platform. Just the sheer amount of time it takes to train the kids on how to use it and train the teachers on how to facilitate it. I just do not feel like we have that time before the fall. I would, you would think me being a former teacher would give me some sort of advantage. I feel like my kids are being left behind, and they are so eager to return to school in the fall. A lot of parents, I think, are biting their tongue. Extremely frustrating to try to be good parents, be good teachers, and also try to work full-time jobs, or several people work multiple jobs. So I would just, I'll keep it short and sweet, but would really appreciate if the board would consider what's best for the students. And in my humble opinion, what's best for the students is being in the classroom with their teachers, and allowing the teachers to teach, because I think if that doesn't happen, you're going to see a mass exodus out of this district. There's already people talking about pulling their kids, sending them to private schools. And I'm proud of Visalia Unified. I want everyone to be proud of it. So I'm really hoping that it will be possible to return to full classroom school in the fall. And I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. You can go ahead and hang up now. I have another call. One moment, please. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ramage. I'm a parent of a senior at Redwood High School. First of all, thank you for your hard work running this district. I can't imagine having to oversee every aspect of the district during a worldwide pandemic. My family is saddened by those who've lost their lives, loved ones, jobs. We're sad that kids have missed out on school, their friends, their teachers, classroom instruction. One of the groups that has also lost a lot, we know, are our high school seniors, and I'm not going to go into all of the things, as you're aware of, that they're missing. As each event is canceled, the seniors grieve, but they give over it and move on. The one thing that they hung on to was to have a graduation. As COVID numbers rise in our county, we all agree that a regular commencement ceremony should not happen the first week of June. Apparently, a commencement committee was in charge of putting together an awesome plan to celebrate its seniors. As the plan unfolded, many students and parents were crushed to see what was planned. Not only were they grieving the loss of commencement, but many have lost hope of ever getting to get together with their lifelong friends and teachers. Students this last week and parents look at the other districts around us, like Fresno Unified, Central, Clovis, Exeter, Hanford, some who are being the districts have committed to providing a later graduation ceremony. Some are getting to participate in social distancing ceremonies, and others who will be given a keepsake video of students walking across the stage while parents and families stand, watch, cheer, and take pictures, not just a 9-month-old yearbook photo. It saddens me that seniors were not given a simple survey or a voice to express their thoughts and ideas for a safe graduation ceremony. Some feel unheard and uncared for. If other districts can make these events happen, then Visalia Unified can make them happen too. Let's turn it around today. Let's give our stakeholders a voice. We can be innovative and creative. I, along with many other parents, will do whatever it takes to make an amazing ceremony for our seniors. It's not too late. I know that next week plans are already in place. We will proudly drive through with our decorated car. We will wait for our daughter to get out and walk across the stage while cheering loudly from the car. But let's not end there. Let's plan on giving them a ceremony to look forward to when our community is safe. Send a survey making sure, or asking the students if they would come back for one.
If so, we can plan on making a video honoring those who are going to the military and wouldn't be able to come back for a ceremony. Their parents could stand in the stadium while we applaud their senior and their service to our country. Mostly want to celebrate those who don't go away to college or the military. It would be for the seniors who worked hard to get their diploma but aren't planning on going to college. Maybe they have special needs or learning disabilities. Maybe they need to go straight into the workforce or to help take care of their family. Maybe they are deciding
Caller, excuse me, caller,
military or higher education aren't needed.
we are at over the 3 minutes for comment.
Students as well as all of who desire to have closure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to allow one more call because we are over the 20 minutes of time. So do we have another call?
We do. One moment, please. Caller, go ahead. Caller? Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is April Slack. I am a parent of a student at El Diamante High School. First of all, I want to start out by thanking Ms. Vasquez, Ms. Travis, and Mr. Guerrero for their support of our seniors and giving them a voice, as well as a voice for us parents who were not on any committee. I feel like the school district is so worried about a lawsuit from someone getting sick that they're failing to recognize that what they have planned could in fact cause some other civil claims. There's some simple things. As pointed out in the roadmap, outdoor museums and open gallery spaces and other public spaces are now part of phase 2, which are okay. There's some simple things that could please parents, students. For instance, a family photograph from the car is not possible. There's no reason why we cannot exit a vehicle and take a photo, like many other districts have done. Also, limitations on what can be driven. Limousines, commonly rented, that have been rented for over a year for this event, still being withheld from these kids. Completely unfair. All the other school districts have never said once that they were going to limit our students on that. And finally, no school district can say that the superintendent hung up on a parent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your call and your comments. We'll end it here. Please understand that the board and the staff are very sympathetic with all of the issues that you brought up today. And we want to make all these things happen as well, but we want to do it, as has been stated, in a healthy way. And we need to follow the guidelines that have been set forth by the state and the county. Those are the restrictions that we are working within, and we apologize for that. But please understand that we care, and we would do more if we could. Thank you again. Is there any other board comments? Okay, then we'll move on to Ms. Gamoyan.
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments. I've answered a lot of emails. I've talked on the phone I just want to make it really clear that when this whole thing started, we, the district, wanted to do the best we could for our seniors. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Raveline, we have spent close to maybe over $30,000 for this graduation. When we decided that we didn't want to make any hollow promises and say, hey, we're going to do this, in July, August, because we didn't know where we'd be in this pandemic, what phase we're in. And so we got a committee together and they wholeheartedly went after it and wanted to do what was something special for our kids. This is my last class graduating, and I know I'm not a parent, but this is my last class graduating at Golden West. And I am very disappointed that I don't get to hug them and I don't get to see them in a traditional ceremony. But we began right away. And when we started this thing, we couldn't invite a bunch of people. It would have been against the health regulations. And so this committee did reach out to the community the best we could at that time. So Saturday night, I'm gonna be real honest, I got quite a few emails and they weren't very nice. And so I got on the phone right away. We don't care for our kids like Exeter cares about their kids. So I made a phone call to the principal, friend of mine. I said, hey, what'd you do? I want to do what's best for our kids do. And he told me that we did the pretty close to the same thing we're doing, except the families could get out of their car. They could be at the fence. Now, I'd love to do that, but I calculated it would take us 600 hours just for 3 minutes to do this at Redwood. And so, I'm at a loss what to do. I just want to make it very clear to the community. We did what we thought was best for our kids. We do care. We weren't trying to be mean. We tried to do what was best for our kids in the situation we're in. And I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say about that, but I'm going to switch gears a little bit and I'm going to talk about getting back to school. I'm of that part of the public, and my board members can attest to this. I was like, hey, we're meeting together already in public. Hey, we're going back to school. Hey, I'm going back to school in fall. We need to go full bore. And I do still want that, and I'm holding out for that. But I certainly changed my tune when I started talking to members of the community, and I saw the fear in their eyes about getting back to school. And I saw the fear in the eyes of some of my colleagues about getting back to school and being afraid of being sick. And I thought, there's got to be a different way to do this. And I have full trust in our Dr. Raveline and Mr. Cardoza and Mrs. Somavia and the rest of our district to come up with the plan that is best for our kids. I want our kids back in school, but I didn't realize there's a lot of fear in the community. And, many of us do want to go back. Like, I'd go to a restaurant tonight if I could, but there's a lot of fear in our community, and we have to honor that. And we have to do what's best for our whole community. So thank you.
Other board member comments? Trustee Vasquez?
Did we have callers waiting? One of the complaints that I keep hearing is that people were on hold for a long time and then they weren't able to speak. I really do believe that this was two different topics, the graduation versus opening. And I would respectfully ask that is there any more public comment? Or I know we each got many emails. Is there some way that those emails, or that they could submit something in writing so that it could be documented, their comments, some way that they can feel heard, please?
I think they certainly can send emails. I think most of the people that are really interested in this issue have already done that.
No, what I'm saying is they've sent emails to us, but they're not part of the record. Other districts have a way that people can submit comments. One of my fellow board members was telling me that they had like 80 comments, and each one of those comments were read in open session. I'm just saying our people are feeling that they're not being heard, and we just shut them down after 20 minutes. Is there a way that they could officially submit their comments, not just send us emails, but officially send their comments to the board? Is my question.
I think they could officially send them, but to think that we could sit and read each one of them in a board meeting is about as crazy as trying to have the graduations last for 600 hours.
I guess I need to clarify. I know you don't want to read 80 emails. I'm telling you, other districts have done that. I'm asking for a way, instead of them sending us personal emails like they've done before, and since we've cut their communication after 20 minutes, is there some way, because we are a public entity and by law we have to have a space for input, that they can submit those same emails, because some of them actually read their emails here, that those that did not get a chance to publicly say their emails, that they could publicly submit them to the board as a document and not just to us personally, is what I'm asking for. By law, they have a right to be heard.
We don't have a way at this time to facilitate that. So most of the people who spoke have sent emails, and they can continue to do so, definitely.
But we can find a way in the future that they can submit their comments as if it was a phone call, so that it can be a public record as part of our meeting and part of the input, that at least we don't have to read them out loud, but we at least have to read them as part of our input, just like we would our packet.
We can look into that option, and then we'll have to, the board's going to have to decide if they want phone calls or the emails.
Or I don't know, or both. I'm just saying that by law, we are a public entity. We need to take their input. Thank you.
We do, I would think, within the parameters of what the board has set, and that is 23 minutes and 20 minutes on a topic. And generally what you get is the same thing from each parent. They're all just as frustrated as the other one and have the same issues with what's going on right now, which is where the frustration comes from. So I'm not sure that that makes a lot of sense. That's my feeling. Trustee Fulmer.
Well, I think what Dr. Vasquez was saying was print them out, give us a packet of the stuff. Don't read it in a board meeting. But there is one thing that, well, first of all, we didn't make these rules, the governor did. We don't make a lot of progress if we start telling the governor he's an idiot. The other thing is, well, I'll just stop there. We have to follow the law. It isn't like we make our own. And oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm hearing a lot about all these other districts are doing this, that, and the other thing. And I know people in some of these districts, and they said, no, we're not doing that. So certainly before I took any of this to the bank, I would call the districts and ask what they're doing. That's all.
Trustee Foster. Hold on, we got to turn your mic on. Okay, go ahead.
I want to agree with my colleague, Mr. Fulmer, and you, President, that, and also Ms. Gamoyan, we do care, but we have to follow the law. We believe in honoring and sustaining those who are in authority, who make the laws. We can't be doing our own thing like some other boards do. I believe I wanted to participate in graduation like Mr. Fulmer, who has people in his own family that he'd like to shake their hands. I had people that I wanted to shake their hands. But I also know that I don't want to have on my conscience one dead CV-19 student at all. And that would weigh on me more than any graduation ceremony. It would last me for my lifetime, believe me. And I know our superintendent does care about every single person in this district. And I know she's a very polite, kind, good person. I've known her now for over a year, actually basically 2 years. And I can tell you she is a top-notch person. And I've never seen her be rude to anybody. And I'm very proud of her. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Guerrero?
Yeah, the dilemma is time versus process, and I'm more interested in the process. And for me, it is my interest to have to at least have the family step out of the car, take that picture, then move on. You know, that might not take that long, but if we can have people there to encourage them, you know, you get off the car, the student gets their diploma, then they get back in the car and they move on. I didn't have anybody tell me. I was in between the closed session and open session. I put the television on and I saw Clovis doing that. If nobody had to tell me that, I'm not looking at Exeter, I'm not looking at Tulare or anything else. I saw it for myself. So if they can step out, take a photograph, make it a nice event for them, and move along. Okay, that's one comment. My second comment is this: is that I agree with Board Member Fulmer and Board Member Vasquez that the correspondence that's coming in, it's our due diligence to see that, to enter it as part of the record. I'm your board clerk, and I'm basically asking that those documents be attached and that we put it part of our record, and that way we ensure that all board members saw that.
Trustee Naylor?
Yeah, I would love to see us let the parents get out and take a picture. I don't know how we work that, but that would be my request, is that we allow them to get out. This is a special event, and my heart goes out. I've been an educator. I know how important graduation, is to everybody. If we can at least do that. I know we put a lot of time in just listening to all the comments and the emails. I just think we need to do everything we can to make this a memorable experience. Regarding the comments, I do agree too that there should be, if we could get some platform where our community can upload those so that it is part of public record. I know our city council does it. It's a pretty easy process. I would really like to I would request that we look into that. I just have a hard time knowing that people are out there trying to make comments, and I do appreciate the emails. We do read the emails, and we do want community input. And I too, I know that this is a hard time. I have seen, statewide, county, across the country, songs, and we're not alone. We're not alone in this. It's the whole country, and all seniors across the whole United States are having their graduation, their proms taken away. And it hurts my heart. But we are faced with a pandemic, and we have to deal with it at the best we can. And we want what's best for our kids. And we want it to be memorable, but we want it to be safe. And I just want the community to know that we're trying our hardest. But there's hard decisions. It's a really hard decision. So, we're trying to get the input from people, and we're trying to make those adjustments. And I have confidence in our superintendent that she's doing the best we can and trying to put on what we can as a best commencement ceremony that we can do at this point, given the parameters that we are.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yeah, given the parameters, and I do understand the time, and I do understand the safety issues, but I'm just wondering, when we said that people couldn't get out of the car about a time issue, if the student has to get out of the car, get his stuff, go across the thing, and then come back, this actually question is for Member Travis. Do you think if the student got out of the car and did all that the people in the car would be happy to get out of the car and get back in before the student arrived, so we wouldn't be taking up any more time? And Dr. Reveline, do you think that if the way the setup is on these campuses, if they got out of their car, that they're still breathing the same air, that they're not going to be mingling with anybody else, that they could take pictures and get back in the car before the student get there, that would solve our problem of time as opposed to exposure. Because I understood first that would be too many people, but these are the same people they're breathing with. And I don't, and like I said, wasn't clear to me the setup, but if they could get out of the car enough to take pictures while the student came back to the car, then time wouldn't be an issue. Is that feasible?
To expedite the process, the campuses are providing at the entrance, they're going to give them their diploma and medals and all of that. And then they will drive up, be directed to one of the 4 platforms again. And the student is going to get out of the car, walk across the area there that's set up for them, that's decorated, take the photograph, get back in the car. 1 or 2 minutes, probably max. If a family gets out, I'm sure it will take much longer. If they want to take a group photo or that sort of thing, the cars, depending on the campus, will be about 10 feet away from where the graduate is. So it's not a far distance. Again, we can explore other things, but we have to work with our committee and the administrators at the sites. They mapped this all out and determined how long it would take them. We've arranged with VPD and again, the Public Works Department for assistance with this, because traffic control, as you can imagine, having hundreds and hundreds of cars go through is a different event. So we can continue to explore things, but I don't feel comfortable making any promises whatsoever, because really our sites need to weigh in on this.
Yeah, because one of the things I didn't mention is the idea that everyone has to pay for a photograph in order to get one. If somebody, at least one other person, get out and snap something. I'm not talking about a family portrait. I mean, they're going to all get back in the car and I'm sure they're going to have their celebration. I'm talking about just a chance for somebody else to not have to pay $40 for a picture of their kid, because that's the only moment that they're going to see and they have no record of it. So some kind of that they feel they can be part of that is all I'm talking about. I'd really like to make sure that we at least try to explore something that won't cost us another $30,000, that won't cost us another day, but 30 seconds and a half an hour, a little space, something. Thank you.
The student rep, did you have something, Ms. Travis?
I do. Trustee Vasquez did direct the question towards me, and so I did want to try my best to answer it. And so I would suggest, she asked concerning if students and parents could have to shorten the time that parents would be able to get back in the cars by the time the student comes back. And from what I can tell and from the public comment we've had is that parents and students are willing to work with us and they're willing to work with the board in order to find a solution that everyone is at least content with, because we all know that this is a difficult situation, there's difficult decisions, but I do believe that the care and the passion that students have shown with their public comment and with their protest and with everything that's been put out on social media in the past few days is that if students really want their parents to come out of the car and take a picture, and I would hope that the parents would be respectful of the time and that they would get back in the car by the time the student gets back. People have shown enough care and enough passion about this that they would be willing to follow within our guidelines in order to get a couple seconds to take a picture of their student on the platform without having to pay for it. Thank you.
Mr. Trustee Fulmer.
Well, one thing they could do, my granddaughter's going to take her cap and gown home, stand on the front lawn and show her diploma and get a picture taken. The other thing is just doing the math, 400 students, 2 minutes apiece, that's 800 minutes, that's 13 hours. I don't see that as terribly practical. And frankly, I doubt if you can do it a great deal faster than that with people getting in and out of cars. The way we do it in a normal year, it's this side, that side, that side, that side, and it goes pretty quickly, and it still takes 2 or 3 hours. But if you take just the time for people to get out of a car, take a picture, get back in the car, literally you're talking a very long day.
I think your numbers are conservative, Mr. Fulmer.
Oh, they're
Guerrero?
intentionally conservative.
Mr. Guerrero?
Just a point of clarification. I'm not giving my vote to a committee.
we're the school board, and it's up to us to make a decision. And I just want to clarify that with superintendent, that you know what, I don't give away my vote that way. And I'll tell you right now that when I said time versus process, it's the process here that's more important. And hey, I would say to allow them to step out. That's where I would vote. And I'm not going to give my vote away to anybody.
Any other comments? All right, we'll move on to enclosure number 22, extended year report. Mr. Cardoza.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can.
I'm going to share my screen. Not that part of the screen. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let me get this set up here. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, good evening, Board President Crabtree, Dr. Raveling, and board members. My name is Doug Cardoza, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. I'm here tonight to share with you our plans for our summer learning program. We have several things going on this summer. One of the things we have is a migrant education program. Our students will be working with teachers and paraprofessionals to provide opportunities in a distance learning format. They will be working on language and literacy, as well as some math curriculum. We also have our English language learner program, which is basically the same type of an approach. Teachers will be using a distance learning approach to work with kids, again, to build language and math skills. Within that program, it's a K-5 program for migrant and English learners. We focused on students at our 7 sites: Crowley, Ebble Creek, Goshen, Highland, Houston, Ivanhoe, and Washington, where we have most of our English learners and migrant populations. We're currently going to use the Rosetta Stone curriculum for language development and math. In math, we're still kind of researching to find out what the best approach would be for math. We also have some options for independent reading. Students will be provided a variety of books in both English and Spanish. Currently, our interest is a little bit low. We're kind of disappointed, honestly, but we have our SAFE employees that are reaching out to families in those areas to try to make sure they understand how to register and what the opportunities are there for them. High school, summer school. We have 2 types of opportunities this year. One is an independent study approach. It's a Monday through Thursday program, and it's 2 semesters. The first semester begins June 9th and goes till June 25th. The second semester going from the 29th, let me move my screen here, I'm sorry, through July 16th. The independent study program will be, the course offerings will be English, science, and health courses. Students will be required to work from home. They will complete 1 assignment a day for a total of 5 assignments a week. Initial assignments are being distributed this week. The biology, health, earth science students are picking up their materials at El Diamante High School using social distancing and keeping people safe. English 1, English 2, American literature, world history, and US history, and independent study model will pick up materials at Mount Whitney High School. There'll be a total of 15 assignments in all for each course that must be completed to receive a final grade. The other part of our high school summer school is the online program through Edgenuity. The online programs offered will be world history, US history, econ and civics, math 1, math 2, math 3, and PE 2. Students will be required to work for an average of 3 to 5 hours a day. Math courses will have some required additional tutorials within the program. Teachers will be communicating with students regarding tests and assessments. There's really no direct instruction provided with the online program. We do have students who are remediating a math course, and we are working to provide additional support for them through some type of a kind of a webinar type support we're looking at to give them that added support. The high school, the numbers for high school right now, first semester we have 1,454 students in online, or excuse me, in independent study, and 3,314 in the online program, for a total.
You have another slide on that, Mr. Carter?
4,768 first semester. Second semester, we have 1,279 in the independent study program.
Doug.
3,347 in the online program, for a total of 4,626 students.
Mr. Cardoza, did you have a slide on that?
The other part of our program is the extended year, which is for special education students. Again, this is a virtual and distance learning type approach. A lot of instruction will be supported with telephonic instruction. It begins June 15th through July 9th. Extended school year will be offered as a distance learning program using a combination of online materials from unique learning systems, News to You, Google Classroom, and take-home hands-on packets for younger students. Families are currently being surveyed regarding their access to technology for planning purposes. And our special education staff are currently reviewing IEPs and developing specific service models to meet the individual needs of our students through extended school year. Currently, we have about 170 students that are recommended for extended school year, and those are based on recommendations by teachers. So those are recommendations. Not all parents will opt to have their kids in the program, but those have been recommended at this point. We also have about 300 students that are enrolled in regular summer school that are students on IEPs. So they'll be provided support through their IEPs and their program managers. The other piece is the Department of Rehabilitation. We have about 37 students enrolled in there. Typically they work 50 hours in a classroom and 50 hours in the workplace. So they're working through how to support those students. The last thing on my list is our summer meal program. Just to give you an update that we are continuing with our current support for the meal program through the end of July, with the possibility of extending through August. I think we have a waiver that may allow us to serve a little longer. We continually make adjustments to our meal services to meet the needs of our students and families during our summer programs. We will be adjusting our serving times as we move into the summer months and hot weather. We range from, currently we're at about 7,800 meals. We were up to around 9,000 at one point, but we're adjusting along the way. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. If you'd like to call in for public comment, please do so at this time. I'll take comments from the board while we're waiting. Is there any board comments? Trustee Foster?
Hang on one second, Mr. Crabtree, my volume is down. Go ahead.
That explains it. Mr. Foster is muted. Can somebody turn on the mic for Mr. Foster, please?
I think they're working on it.
Mr.
okay.
Foster, you are up.
Yeah, yes. Mr. Cardoza, are we at 9,000 or are we, because the economic hardships have increased, are we doing more?
Well, we actually are down a little bit. I think we served 7,800 this past week. The EBT cards came out where parents are receiving around $360 per kid. And so it's a card where they can purchase food and help feed their children. So when those types of things, deliveries happen, we see a little drop and people coming to pick up meal services.
Thank you.
Other board comments? Trustee Vasquez?
Mr. Cardoza, thank you for that report. You went a little fast there. Do you have a slide that shows the numbers? And I just want to clarify, when you said there were 170 referrals you were talking specifically about SPED. And when you said the 300 students were regular, what does that mean? That they're coming on campus? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so the children that are in our specialized programs, like our SLCs, they are based on referral. And so their referral to the program is based on whether they have regression or they think there'll be regression. And so they look at data over the past year and previous summer to see, did this kid regress over the summer? And should we put them in extended year for the following year based on data? And so those are kids that are all recommended that we need to keep them in an extended year program so they don't regress and they're ready for the next year. The other 300 are just kids that are on IEPs. They're not necessarily in specialized programs, but they decided they wanted to go to summer school. So they're in general ed summer school classes like everyone else, and but they're on an IEP. So those students will have specific things within their IEP that will need to be addressed by the teachers and provide that type of support.
But when you say regular classrooms, they're still doing online distance learning during the summer. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Say it again.
But when you say regular school, those 300, you're talking about distance learning. Just because they're regular programming, they're not like specialized classes,
No,
or they're going to be distance learning as well. Yes. Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then the other question was, you went off on a lot of numbers, 33 or 53, I don't know, the online. How does this compare to our usual summer classes, summer school?
So our usual summer school is around 2,400 total. And between these two semesters, we're serving over 6,000 this coming summer. So they're much, much higher. We left it open. Normally it's limited. And so it was left open for all students. We felt like with all that's happened, that we should give every kid an opportunity to go to summer school. It will have some impact because when we, if we graduate that many students out of summer school, it has a major impact on the master schedule as kids move into that next school year, because now you're going to have, 1,000 kids that pass their health class. And so that'll cause us to make some adjustments, but we think it's worth the opportunity to give kids, and we'll work through it and figure it out as when we get there.
And we're going to need those adjustments, but could you please send us those numbers so we can have
I've got them all on an email. I can send them to you.
Clear, because you did go very fast, but thank you very much. I really like the conciseness, but it was really hard to get a picture of what's online, what's the 46, what's the 14. So if those numbers could have a little bit more of clarification, that would be great. Thank you.
Board Member Guerrero.
Since a lot of this summer school is going to be online, it's going to be distance learning, are we set up for that already? Did we already set up our
I can't hear what you're
technology systems and whatnot? Let me give an example. Last year, Ivanhoe had 90 students. Since we're all going into distance learning online, we're prepared for that. School starts on June 9th. We do our system set up. Do we have hotspots for these kids?
So part of the work that we were doing is identifying which mode we could serve the kids in. So we're ensuring the ones that, whether we're giving them hotspots or they have access at home, those are the students that are in the online program. Those that do not, and if we're not able to get access to them, then they are in the paper pencil type program, the independent study type of program.
All right, so do we have numbers on there? I mean, I'm basically out here in a rural area, and a lot of folks out here, I want to know how many are going to get pencil and paper and how many are going to get online. Can we get some numbers on that?
Mr. Guerrero, you were breaking up on me there. I think you were asking how many are getting pencil and paper and how many are online in your area.
That is a good example of what I'm talking about. I don't live in the city. I'm 5 miles north of Albo Creek. I'm basically asking, are we set up for online programs? How many are online? How many are pencil and paper? I just want numbers. I want to know.
Yeah, so the information I gave you was that first semester, For independent study, we have 1,454. That's the paper pencil, basically. For online, we have 3,314. That's the first semester. The second semester, we have 1,279 enrolled in the paper pencil or the independent study. And we have 3,347 that are in the online program.
Any other comments?
Phone's frozen.
Okay, I heard. So what I'm going to request now is how many in area 2 students are, how many are pencil? Because, you know, I want to make sure that the rural kids are getting their education. We talk equity all the time. I mean, I just want to know numbers. Like I said, in area 2, which is my area, which is northeast of Visalia. Like I said, I'm in a rural area. I want to know where the numbers are at. Thank you.
Trustee Foster? We'll need to turn your mic on. Go ahead.
Do we have enough teachers? Most people in the summer don't teach. I mean, do we have enough teachers for these programs? And if not, where are we going to get them?
We do. Summer school is somewhat popular with teachers, so that's typically never a problem finding folks that want to teach summer school. We actually are hiring fewer teachers in this mode than we typically do. So we're hiring right now about 26 teachers for independent study portion of it and about 35 for the online portion of it.
Thank you.
Any other board member comments? All right, now we'll get on to something a little lighter and certainly more enjoyable, the student representative report. Ms. Travis.
Board President, we do have public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, you'll have to wait. All right, go ahead.
Caller, go ahead.
Two Visalia Unified School District students. Both of them are Linwood students. One goes to Viva Blunt because he is an SLC class. We are full-time working parents, and I am very disappointed that you didn't give enough time earlier in the call in order for parents to call in on this concern.
I'm sorry, caller, if this is not regarding this current agenda item, then we're not allowed public comment on previous item. But if you'd like to submit an email to Dr. Ravelin and or the board, you're certainly more than welcome to do that.
I already did that, sir. I already did that. I sent that yesterday. Everybody should have read it. Crabtree actually responded to it. So you guys do have my email, but you didn't give us enough time to have public comment on the other previous comments.
Well, I understand that, but generally the board's policy is 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes total. And I went well over that time. So we'll have to move on. I'm sorry.
Can you? I think a lot of parents are asking.
Yeah. Board President, I do have another call.
Okay.
Caller, go ahead.
Hi, I had a comment regarding summer school or a question.
Okay,
Hi, good evening, board and Mr. Cardoza and Superintendent Revlin. I was inquiring because on the letter that we received for summer school, there was not any reference to how students would get technology if they needed a computer. I know on the survey that went sent home to the kids, they indicated whether they would need a computer or not, and that is not addressed in the letter that was sent home.
Okay, yeah, that's, I know they did the survey and they based that, their information on the survey that they sent out to kids. I wasn't aware that it's not in the letter. But if you need access and you're not being offered that access, if you want to give me a call, we'll definitely make sure you get what you need.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you for your call. Do you have any other calls?
One moment, she'll have to hang up first. There are no more calls.
Thank you. Ms. Travis, it's your turn.
Hello. So I do have a report for you guys. Starting with VCIS, the VCIS seniors will graduate on Monday, June 1st. For Redwood High School, Redwood ASB is holding officer elections this week for class officers as well as for the executive board. So good luck to all those running. The RHS yearbook is accepting applications to be part of creating the log volume 66 for next year. Last week, Redwood students successfully dropped off school property and was able to retrieve their personal belongings, and graduation will take place on June 4th for Redwood seniors. LD Monte was able to highlight their senior athletes on Instagram and allow them to say their farewells virtually. LD Monte students involved in video were able to virtually attend the Slick Rock festivals, and some students placed. Last week, students were able to return school items and pick up essential personal property. And finally, LD Monte High School will hold its commencement ceremony on Wednesday, June 3rd. For Sequoia High School, Sequoia seniors will graduate on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. VTech graduation ceremony will take place on Thursday, June 4th. For Golden West High School, Golden West students were able to pick up and return items last week. Makeup days are Tuesday through Friday this week. Yearbook distribution has been postponed. More information to come. Commencement ceremony will be on Tuesday, June 2nd. For Mount Whitney High School, Mount Whitney High School's video production received 3 Slick Rock Awards. Mount Whitney has successfully had a senior scholarship night on May 14th, 2020, and Mount Whitney seniors will graduate on Friday, June 5th. And in regards to life as a quarantine student, many students took their AP exams last week and the week before. Congrats to all those who successfully completed their tests. Makeup exams will take place next week, June 1st through 5th. With this school year coming to a close, students are finishing up work and starting to make some summer plans. I know a lot of students are getting summer jobs. And a reminder, as it's getting hotter, please remember to stay hydrated. Thank you.
Thank you. Always fun to hear what's going on there. All right, board member reports. Trustee Foster. Oh, hold on. We got to turn you on. All right, go ahead.
I have no report except for to say that this pandemic has killed 100,000 people. That's twice as many people as that you and Mr. Fulmer served in Vietnam. It took 20 years to kill 47,000 of our citizens. This pandemic has killed 100,000 people in 3 months. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Trustee Fulmer.
Okay, am I on? I would just kind of echo what Mr. Foster said. To trivialize the possibility of somebody getting sick is just not appropriate. That's all.
Trustee Vasquez.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank all the parents and the students and the staff that that express their concerns, the emails, the Facebook stuff. Your opinions matter. And I really want to say a big shout out and a thank you for those that kept it very respectful, which I know in this time that we are very heated and if people are uncomfortable and confused and frustrated, that I get that. So I really do appreciate everybody that's maintained their civility and have been so eloquent in outlining things. So I really want to thank you for that. And then I want to just thank the staff, because I know it's got to be hard out there. And when we think about those numbers and we think about how many dedicated teachers we have that are teachers and staff that are in that risk, people at risk. Think about our bus drivers. So many of them that are over the 50 years old. You know, I have a childhood friend that has been fighting for the last 3 weeks. She's a nurse and she caught it from a patient, and they moved her from Coya Delta to Fresno because they could not they didn't have the ventilators, they didn't have the equipment to help her in Visalia. So this is a real personal thing, and this is a real difficult thing. And then thank you, Dr. Aveline, for that outline that you did, because there really is a lot of different issues and moving parts to this whole thing. So I really appreciate that overview before, because it is safety, it is technology, it is those things. But I still want to ask that we really have a study session, that we have more chance for clarity and for communication. So the two things I'm asking for is, one, some kind of study session so that we as a board have a chance to discuss and be more involved in that. And that two, we find a way to have more clarity so that we can have another way to get information out. Even though you have it on the webpage and you're sending things, people still don't feel like they're being heard and they don't understand. I was so glad to see that you have a call in that people can call and ask their questions to. But we've got a lot of emails saying, I tried calling, what do I do about this? The other issue that we didn't discuss was the idea of having more than one car when you have, a divorced parents. I understand if there's a court order that they can have 2 cars, but if there's a divorced family, that they cannot have 2 cars. So really looking into that to see if if they could have 2 cars, but limit it to under 10 people or something to make this to be heard. And which brings me to the second thing I want to ask, and that is that we make sure that we find a way that people can put their comments on public record. I will ask for that formally in my request, in my board report, and request that we find a way to document, because if somebody sends me a personal email and sends it to all of us, that's great, but I would like it to make part of public record, that we have an official email that it goes to, that it becomes part of public record. And I think that's it. So stay safe, everyone. I was tested last week. I am negative, thank God. And it's hard and it's confusing. So thank you everyone for your hard work and for your patience, and God bless you. Thank you.
Trustee Gamoyan.
No report.
Trustee Guerrero.
Yeah, first thing I want to say is I want to thank our student rep. I think it's your last meeting today, and I really want to thank you because your reports have. It's kind of you're bringing us a student's voice, and we're, especially now in these times, we're all disconnected. We're all zooming in and whatnot, and to hear you and to hear what the students are doing, thank you for being here, and that's why we have student reps, and you've done a very good job. Okay. So I have a few notes here. I'd like for us in 2 weeks, it'll be 2 weeks, we're moving on in time, and hopefully we'll be in 2.5 by then in terms of the county and the directives, but there's less than 10 of us, and there's 7 of us, superintendent, and then a couple of staff. I believe that I'm hopeful that we can move into an in-person meeting. And for those that do not or opt out of an in-person meeting, we can have them Zoom in. But, I believe that Walter Gamodian made that request at the last board meeting. And I think it's time that we start meeting in person. Our boardroom is big enough that we can do that. Okay. Secondly, I've made this suggestion before, and I just heard Board Member Vasquez make this, and that is that I'd like to see a study session on technology and toggling. And that way we can have people come in and present with us and tell us, you did a very good report, Superintendent, but I'd like to get a little bit more thorough. Let me give you an example. I was looking at, there was a report on Fresno Unified. They're putting buses in certain parts of the city so that they can connect people to technology that we're having trouble connecting to technology. And so they're using their buses with satellites in that way. Thirdly, I'd like to ask that we schedule some board policy meetings, especially with these different approaches coming up. It appears to me that we're going to need some policies, and we've stopped doing our normal business, but I think we need to start doing some of our business and to make sure that we covered all the policies that we were working on before the pandemic, but before our schools stopped. And I'd like to see that schedule. And I'd also like to see that we go back to scheduling our individual board member meetings. We could do that by phone or by Zooming, but those individual board meetings are done with individual board members. And I've only seen 2 or 3 board members on your schedule, your schedule, Superintendent. I don't see all 7 of us, and I think that we need to be equitable with the board members, and that board members need to be talking to the superintendent and vice versa in case they have questions. And this school year is coming to an end. And, usually at graduation time, we're there. And I'd really like to thank the staff. It's been a different year, and there has been no year like this. And I'd really like to thank all our staff at Visalia Unified School District, classified, certificated, and management. And you all do a great job, and I think our board members recognize that. That's it with my report and my requests.
Trustee Naylor.
No report.
And my report will only consist of congratulating Ms. Travis and wishing you all the best in the future. Thank you for being with us. It's been very enjoyable. And the very best of luck to you. Dr. Raveling.
No report.
No report. Yeah, I guess you gave it all earlier. Thank you very much. All right, that being the case, then we will move on to enclosure number 23, Governor's May revision to the 2020-2021 budget proposal. Mr. Hernandez, welcome.
Thank you very much, President Crabtree, members of the board, Dr. Raveling, Nathan Hernandez, Admin Services, and I'd like to say it's my pleasure to present this report to you tonight, but I have a feeling you're not going to like it very much. As part of the state's annual budget process, the governor issues a January budget proposal. And he comes back after reviewing income tax receipts and state revenues and issues a revision in May to that January proposal. So this revision was issued about 2 weeks ago. It doesn't look anything like the January proposal, so I won't even really touch on what was included in the January proposal. But as the board knows, the district made budget cuts at the tail end of this current fiscal year as we're moving into next fiscal year to balance the budget. And then that was all done pre-pandemic. And now we have more information on the state budget and the impacts. We talked about the health impacts, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the financial impacts of the pandemic. So the presentation that you're going to see was from School Services of California. They do a pretty good job of giving an outline and overview of the governor's revision. So we've taken some of their slides here, and what was in your board packet is a more detailed review of the budget. I pulled some slides. I've kept the slide numbers the same so you can follow along. And if you have any questions, I also have those slides in the presentation. We can jump through. Some of the three takeaways that I think were important from the May revision. The first is that we still don't know what the state budget is going to look like for next year. With the tax day, the income tax day moved from April 15th to July 15th. the state's revenues are still unknown. So there will be adjustments to this budget. It'll happen probably in August. And so we'll adopt a budget in June, and then we'll have to make changes to it in August too. The second thing is the state's budget deficit is deep, 54 billion over the current year and the next fiscal year, and about 18 billion of that attributed to Proposition 98, which is how schools are funded. Very big reduction just to the education side of the budget, but other areas of the budget as well. And then the last thing is the governor's proposal balances this budget using everything that they have at their disposal. They're using all of the state reserve balances over 3 years. They're using one-time monies from the federal stimulus, the CARES Act funds. They are making cuts to their budgets, including 10%, a call for a 10% cut to their state staff salaries, and then deferrals, which we'll spend a little bit of time talking about. These were used during the Great Recession, and they're back. So, the thing to note here, though, is that the cuts to schools and to our local control funding formula are ongoing, but many of the state solutions are one time. And so as we start to prepare our multi-year projection and we look at those 3 out years, we still need to do our due diligence to show that we have a balanced reserve and we can meet our reserve requirement in that 3rd out year. So we'll spend a lot of time talking about that when we bring the budget to you, first reading on June 9th. So I mentioned the state income taxes, shifting that deadline, and you can see the blue bar is where we were over the last 3 years. 2020 was actually looking pretty good compared to last year, and you can see what's come in to date in the orange bar. We're well below where we were in prior 2 fiscal years. And so the income tax is more than half of the state's revenue. And so they really need to get to that July 15th date to see what state revenues are going to look like for the rest of this year. I mentioned the state's $54 billion shortfall. 9 billion of that is 2019-20. 32 billion for 2021, and the remainder is the increased costs that the state's projecting for managing this, the pandemic crisis. And so the state is using their rainy day fund, their budget stabilization account, 16.2 billion. During the last recession, this didn't exist, and so it's kind of softening the blow a little bit. Again, they're using the 16.2 billion. They're drawing down all of that over the next 3 years, and 7.8 billion of that is for next year. Now, this is the Prop 98 funding. So I don't know if you can see my little cursor there, but projected to be 70 billion in 2020-21. You can see that's very close to our 15-16 level of funding. That drop in funding over these 2 years is the $18 billion. And so the cuts to Proposition 98, it's a 10% cut, but you'll probably hear numbers like 7.92%. And that's because the state added COLA, the cost of living adjustment, the inflationary increase to our current year funding, and then added the 10% cut. So if we look at just the year-over-year reduction for schools, it's about 7.92%. Now, some of the cuts that the state's proposing could be triggered off. And so if there is additional federal funding that comes, and specifically the HEROES Act funding that was approved in, I think, the House, but we're not really counting on that happening. Again, that would be one-time monies, but if that does happen, some of these cuts to education would be triggered off. So, and this is what the 7.92% or 10% cut looks like for Visalia Unified. It's a reduction year over year of about 23 million. When we include our charter schools, it's going to be over $23 million in year over year reductions. And like I mentioned, we did take some actions to balance our budget for next year. So we do have increased costs on top of this 23 million. But some of the reductions that we made were to help offset some of those increased costs. We're still looking at about a $23 million structural deficit in our budget for next fiscal year. So deferrals were one of the tools that the state used in the Great Recession. It's some accounting work that is done because what they essentially do is the state shows it as a cut in their budget. School districts are still due those revenues, so we don't show it as a cut. We show it as a receivable, and then when the state pays those funds in the following year, the schools receive their money in July. So they don't send us money in June, they send us the cash in July. The state considers it a reduction to their budget, but for schools, it's just a cash flow issue. In the past, what we've done is we've borrowed monies to make payroll and to pay our vendors for that June end of month pay. We won't have to do that for this fiscal year, but looking to next fiscal year when the deferral is for 3 months, April, May, and June, that's nearly $70 million in our budget. And so we will likely have to borrow to make payroll in those months. And then, so we borrow in April, we pay it back in October. And so that's a cash flow issue for us, but it's a way for the state to reduce their budget without really impacting us other than the cash. Special education, the proposal was for an increase actually for special education. There's already been some adjustments to this in the legislature yesterday. So they are still proposing increasing special education. It'll be a little bit less than what's shown here. And then these are other reductions. And again, these can also be reversed if federal funds come from the HEROES Act. But these reductions to most of our CTE programs are about 50%. The reduction to the after-school program of 100 million is about a 15% cut. And then the reduction to adult schools block grant is about a 12% cut. So we're gonna continue to build our budget for next year, keeping these reductions in mind as we do that. A little bit of a bright spot, the proposal includes moving some of the state's pre-funding for the pensions for CalPERS and CalSTRS. Instead of those pre-fundings happening over the next 30 years, they'll occur in the next 2 years. And so it has the impact of reducing our rates. So for PERS, our rate will be, it's actually a lesser increase, about a 1% increase instead of a 3% increase. And for STRS, it's actually a little bit of a decrease. We go from 17.1 to 16.1% of salary. So instead of having increased cost for pensions overall, our cost will be decreased for next year. So that will help to address part of our deficit. And as I mentioned, there is additional federal funding. The state has already proposed to allocate their CARES Act funding or a portion of their CARES Act funding to schools. There's 3 different pots of money that they're discussing. There is the state's coronavirus relief funds, which they're allocating almost half of their $9 billion to schools. About $4 billion is coming to schools. Another smaller pot of money. They're still wrestling with how to allocate these funds, and I know some changes were made yesterday to this as well. And so when we get the exact amounts of those allocations, we'll hopefully be able to share that when we bring our budget to the board on the 9th. As far as flexibility goes there, we're still waiting to hear. This is probably one of the biggest areas that we're still waiting to hear on because we don't know how the state is going to fund schools for attendance for next year. And some of those decisions need to be made so that we can continue our planning for how we would open up school for next year. So we're still waiting for some flexibility from that. Also, during the Great Recession, there was flexibility for sweeping ending balances and just flexibility in using restricted resources like we do with our unrestricted. And so we're still waiting to hear what else might come as far as flexibility from the state. And then as Mr. Sullivan mentioned, I think in a previous meeting, the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan, has been extended to December, and we will still adopt an LCAP budget, but we will not adopt an LCAP plan come this June. So the expenditures will be included in our budget, but the plan will come later in December. So like I mentioned, we will bring the budget to the board on the 9th. The legislature will adopt the state budget by June 15th. And then we will adopt our budget officially on the 23rd. Likely we'll have changes between the 9th and the 23rd. We don't typically have changes, but I can foresee that when the state takes some actions, we'll want to change and make adjustments to our budget. And then within 45 days, so sometime in August, we'll bring a revision back to the board based on the state's adopted budget and any changes that come once the actual state revenues are known. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
If there's any public comment, please call in at this time. While we're waiting, I'll call on the board for any comments. No one has any comments? Well, I guess you're off the hook, Mr. Hernandez. It's not a very happy report, but hopefully August will look better, at least somewhat better. So thank you for that presentation. And that does bring us to the conclusion of our meeting. And thank you all and good night.